Hey everyone, my name is Robert. Welcome back to my channel, Barter Hordes. I am here today to do an update on some book prizes, but it's not going to be about the Booker or the National Book Award or any of those prizes. There's tons of videos out there for you to overdose on people's reactions to long lists and short lists and problems with long lists and short lists. I am going to update you first on the Mako Prize. So what is the Mako Prize? Last year, my last year of teaching when I was at University School in Fort Lauderdale, I founded a literary prize as a way of getting the school community to read more books and to talk about more books and get students involved and faculty involved and so on. And so we started our own book prize tournament last year, and I adopted a simple format. Well, it's simple to me. It's the World Cup format, where we started off with 32 titles. They were grouped randomly into 8 groups of 4, and then we had judge panels judge each of the groups. We used students and faculty on every panel, so there was a mix of judges for each panel. They read the 4 books, and then they ranked the 4 books 1, 2, 3, or 4. And then the way the World Cup works is in each group of 4, the top 2 move on into a bracket, a knockout bracket. And brackets are something that American sports fans are very familiar with, but they use it in the World Cup as well. And so I used that same format, and the seeds for the bracket were the same as in the World Cup. The winner of one group would be matched up against the runner-up from another group, and so on all the way through the bracket. So 16 books moved on into the bracket, and then we had judge panels read each matchup of books until we ended up with a winner. Last year, the winner was Amor Towles, A Gentleman in Moscow. So we started that again this year. We've just finished the group stage. So the stage where each of the judge panels reads a group of 4 books and ranks them. So we've cut down the field starting now from 32 books to 16 books. And so I'll tell you how the group stage turned out, and then I'll show you the bracket. Okay, so in Group A, we had the Overstory, Macbeth, Asymmetry, and the Incendiaries. And obviously, you know the Overstory because it's one that has been shortlisted for the Booker Prize, but it was this group's least favorite. And so the 2 advancing from Group A are the Incendiaries in first place and Asymmetry by Lisa Halliday in second place. In Group B, we had a virtual tie for first and second place, but first place will be The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna. Second place is An American Marriage by Tayari Jones. And Andrew Sean Greer's Less and Matt Haig's How to Stop Time are both eliminated. In Group C, the 2 books moving on are Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng and The Power by Naomi Alderman. This one surprised me a little bit because one of the books eliminated was Tin Man by Sarah Winman, which was one of my favorites to go pretty far in this competition, and it's already out. That happens sometimes, but that's also the reason why I think it's important to have more than one judge making a decision on a matchup. Anytime you have a single judge making the decision like they do in the tournament of books, you get quirky results because it's arbitrary if you just have a single judge. By having more judges, you eliminate some of that arbitrariness at least. And the fourth one from Group C that also got eliminated was The Ninth Hour by Alice McDermott. In Group D, the 2 that advance are Fiona Davis's The Address and Alice Hoffman's The Rules of Magic. And in a really close decision, the first one to get eliminated from that one was Salman Rushdie's The Golden House and Rachel Kushner, The Mars Room, another Booker Prize favorite. So 2 Booker Prize shortlist books didn't make it past the first round in this tournament. Group E, the 2 advancers are Sing Unburied Sing by Jessamine Ward and Clock Dance by Ann Tyler. The 2 books that were eliminated are Before We Were Yours by Lisa Wingate and The Only Story by Julian Barnes. In Group F, the only book out of the 8 groups to get straight 1 rankings from all 3 judges was Chloe Benjamin's The Immortalists. And so it advances along with Tommy Orange's There There. The 2 books in that group getting eliminated were Claire Massoud's The Burning Girl and Andy Weir's Artemis. And then in Group G, the two advancers are Circe by Madeline Miller and Manhattan Beach by Jennifer Egan. The two that were eliminated were My Year of Rest and Relaxation, Ottessa Moshfegh, and In the Midst of Winter by Isabel Allende. And then in the final group, the two advancers were Meg Wolitzer's The Female Persuasion and Louise Erdrich's Future Home of the Living God. And the two that were eliminated were Paula McLean's Love and Ruin and Lauren Groff's Florida. So let's look at how the bracket actually sets up, and I'm going to insert a picture of the bracket here so you can see it. You can also go to the website for the Mako Prize, which I will link in the description box below. Let me get that page called up here. Okay, so the matchups for the round of 16, or technically it's the octofinals, but the round of 16 books, the first round in the bracket, you'll have The Incendiaries against An American Marriage, Little Fires Everywhere against The Rules of Magic, Sing Unburied Sing against There, Circe against Future Home of the Living God, The Great Alone against Asymmetry, The Address against The Power, The Immortalists against Clock Dance, and The Female Persuasion against Manhattan Beach. And that will take us through the middle of October. I think we set a deadline for the judges for this round of October 15th. So they'll read the two books in whichever matchup they're judging and give us their winner. All they have to do at this point is just tell us which of those two books they prefer, that they think is the best book. And with an odd number of judges on each panel, it's just whichever book gets the most votes goes on to the next round, and so on. So there we are. We're moving into the round of 16, or the octofinals. Several of you, I've mentioned this before on my channel, that one of the things that I really want to do is set up a book prize for BookTube, using BookTubers as the judges. And I put a lot of thought into it, and there are three different formats that I want to consider, or that I'm looking at. And this would be for starting in January of 2019 for books that were published in 2018. The first format, of course, could be just like the Mako Prize, where we start with a field of 32 books in a group stage and then go into a bracket with the 16 books and just play it down from there. That's one way of doing it. And there are pros and cons for each of these methods. At school, we're finding the disadvantage of this method is the group stage. Some people at the beginning of the school year are struggling to get 4 books read, even though we gave them almost 2 months. And for a lot of booktubers who read a lot and have real jobs and real lives, it's a challenge to read a bunch of books in a short period of time. So that's something I'm having to consider too. Another possible format is to just do like the NCAA men's tournament and choose 64 books or 32 books and just go into a straight elimination bracket right from the beginning so that each matchup is just 2 books. That sounds easier and more attractive until you start realizing how many judges it requires. If we were to do a 64 book field, you're talking about 96 judges if we do all of round 1 at the same time. We can always, of course, split up round 1 into 2 or 3 phases, but it's still going to require the most judges of any of the formats. And I'm perfectly willing to do that if there's enough interest from booktubers to act as judges who will actually read the books. Nothing's more harrowing than trying to organize this thing and then finding out on the deadline that one of your judges hasn't bothered to read any of the books. And that always gives me a panic attack. The third format that I'm actually kind of leaning towards, because 1, it takes fewer rounds, and 2, it takes fewer judges. The downside is it requires judges to read more books at one time, and we'd have to figure out the timing for that. And that's to run it just like I would run a speech and debate tournament, or speech tournament actually. I used to do that, as several of you know, I was a speech and debate coach for 10 years. And running a speech tournament, they do rounds of 6 competitors at a time. And when they get to the elimination rounds of a tournament, depending on how big the tournament is, they might start with octofinals. So there would be 8 sections. and there would be 6 competitors in each sections. So they would actually advance 48 competitors to that first elimination round. That's where we would start if I did this format. So you would have 48 books starting the tournament. They would be randomly put into 8 groups of 6, and the judge panel would read the 6 books in their section, and they would have to rank them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. There can be no ties. No, I like them all. That just doesn't work in a competition. You have to decide. And then the top half of each section, the top 3 out of those 6 in each section, advance to the next round. So the field gets cut in half each round. So you start off with 48, 8 sections of 6, and then you go to the quarterfinals, so 4 sections of 6, 24 books advance. Then you go to the semifinals, 12 books advance, 2 sections of 6 books, and then the finals are 6 books. And then the judges in the finals rank them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, just like in every other round. I actually like that format a lot. Having done that for 10 years with debate tournaments, speech and debate tournaments, it works really well. And by having multiple judges in each of those sections, anywhere from 3, 5, 7, or even more judges, if possible, in each section, you get a pretty unskewed representation for those 6 books. There's always going to be some variance in rankings, and sometimes there's a wide variance. But the more judges you have, the more you eliminate that individual bias skewing the result. I would like to do that final format. For one thing, it gets us a little bit more books than what I'm doing with the Mako Prize. We could start with 48 books instead of 32 books. We include a few more on the fringes that some people would think, well, you should include that book, but there's not room for more. There would be room for more. 48's, significantly higher than 32 as a starting field. But it only takes 4 rounds. Each of the rounds would be longer, though, because you're being asked to read, if you're a judge, you're being asked to read 6 books at a time. So each round would probably be, 8 weeks. I'm not really sure exactly what pace judges would be willing to read. 1 a week, 6 weeks. It really depends on the judges who are signed up. The beauty of this format is, though, because you're grouping more books in each section, it doesn't take as many judges. So you can do this one, the first round would only take 24 judges, which isn't nearly as much as if you did a full-blown regular American bracket where you might need as many as 96 judges. So when I mentioned doing a book prize before, I got some response from people who would be interested in serving as judges, but not nearly enough to guarantee that this thing is going to fly. And so if we do this, we're getting to the point now where it's almost October, we really need to commit. And so if you're interested at all in being a judge, even if it's just for one of the 4 rounds, please let me know. You can send me an email, or you can drop a note in the comments below. You can reach out to me on Instagram. I have recently deleted my Twitter and my Facebook. I'm just tired of the toilets that those have become. And so I'm down to Instagram and Goodreads and YouTube now. So please reach out to me that way. If you're interested in serving as a judge, ideally, I would like all the judges to have BookTube channels so that when each round finishes on a specific day and time, you can put up a reaction video to the books that you read in that round. That way it won't affect what anybody else's rankings are because it's already past the deadline, but we get a discussion going about the books as we go. But if we have to take people as judges who are active viewers and commenters and don't have channels, I'm willing to do that if that's the only way we can get up to enough judges to run this contest. But ideally, I'd like everybody who judges to have a channel and be able to make even short videos about why I liked this book so much, even though the rest of my panelists thought I was crazy or whatever. The one thing that I'll tell you ahead of time is you don't talk with the other panelists, and that's how this prize differs from other prizes. You make your own independent rankings and do not consult with the other judges. That way you're not influenced by somebody with a really strong opinion or a really strong presence on YouTube. So that's what my goal is, and I'd really like to start nailing down who the judges are going to be. I keep a list of new releases and potential books to start a tournament with throughout the year, so that's not really a problem. But getting 24 preferably even more people committed to judging at least one round of this tournament is going to be what decides whether we can actually do it or not. And so if you're at all interested, please mention it on your own channel, because there are a lot of people. I obviously am not a huge channel, so there are a lot of people who watch your channels that may never see this video unless you point them to it. So please direct them to it. This is kind of an all-out appeal to get people aware of what I'd like to do and have them sign up if they want to be judges. We would need 24 for the first round, and then I think 20 or so for the second round, and then 10 or more for the third round. And then usually what we do for finals is anybody who's judged any of the rounds should also judge finals again. So we have a ton of judges for the final 6. So if you're interested, please let me know, and please let your subscribers know, the people who watch your channel know, that if they're interested in a literary fiction, there won't be any graphic novels, there won't be any crime thrillers, there won't be any poems on this list. They will be novels. And if they're interested in that and they would like to judge in 2019 and want more information or just want to sign up, send them my way, please. Okay, I'll be back probably tomorrow with a Friday Reads. I didn't do a Friday Reads last week, and so I have quite a few books to mention to you. And I just got overwhelmed at the library yesterday with my reserve list. Basically, half of the reserve list that I had at the library all came in that I had to pick up yesterday. So I have a ton of books waiting for me to read, and I'm excited about them, but I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to read them all in 3 weeks, and I can't renew any of them because everybody else wants to read them too. So that's what my weekend looks like. I hope your weekend is gonna be wonderful. You may hear, I'm not sure if you can hear it or not, there may be a little construction noise in the background because they're preparing the street in front of my townhouse to be paved tomorrow, weather permitting. And so there's lots of beeping from tractors and trucks and all sorts of stuff going on. All right, everybody, I'll talk to you again soon. See you later. Bye.